Yo, so it's Bench again. And I've gotten Kokomi to 277 and I've gotten her level to 9090. So I think I can probably talk a bit about what I think about Kokomi by now. But really that's not really the most interesting thing I have on my mind right now. Which is this whole Genshin Impact drama stuff that's going on. Because really there's not much to do for me to do in the game left anymore. I've done all the story quests. I have no world quest. Well, I do have 5 world quests left to do, but they're kind of all just side stuff. Like I just did the fertilizer quest and it was just okay. It wasn't anything like the Kazari stuff. So I'm not sure what's left for me to do in this game anymore except to just farm mats and wait for the next world quest or the next Archon quest, the next region. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, because there's been a lot of talk about how Kokomi is underpowered, and yeah, she is. Her healing is not that great, her damage is not that great. She is actually just an okay character, but she's not anywhere near what a 5-star should be. She is around Chi-Chi's level of power level, in my opinion. Maybe even a bit less. So she could actually be the most underpowered 5-star character in the entire game right now. And I don't think that this is like a contentious or controversial opinion. But a lot of people are making it out to be one of the biggest problems in Genshin Impact right now, alongside the anniversary awards. But I actually don't think that is true. I think the problem with Genshin Impact is that people have kind of seen the meta of what Genshin Impact can be and what it wants to be. So they're talking about this Kokomi stuff, right? Maybe she could get a buff, maybe she won't. Maybe Mihoyo doesn't care, but well, even if she does get a buff, even if we do get more rewards from Mihoyo, would that actually make the game all that much better? And I think the reason why people are complaining now is that I don't think these are the biggest problems Genshin Impact is facing. I think Genshin Impact is facing a meta problem. I'm not talking about the gameplay power level meta. I think it's the meta of the game itself. The meta that Mihoyo has created for Genshin Impact, which is that we have seen the max amount or the template of the max amount of content that they are willing to create for Genshin Impact. If you look at what we've been getting in the Azuna plotline, you will see what I mean by this. And what I mean is that what exactly comes in a patch cycle for Genshin Impact, right? You have the prologue, you have the main Archon quest, you get chapter 1 and you get chapter 2, or act 1 or act 2 of the chapter 3 of a new chapter. And a new chapter is basically just another region, right? We're getting Inazuma. Inazuma is the first major content patch stuff that we've gotten for Genshin Impact. So the fact that it hasn't hit 100% of, well, our expectations is kind of disappointing. And I think it's this disappointment that is really at the core of what all these complaints about the wards and the Kokomi and Yoimiya underpowered level stuff is about. Because if you're not getting these new characters, if you're not getting free content, and if you're not getting powerful characters and doing big damage, then really what is left there for there to be, like, for you to do in Genshin Impact? There's not much, right? Once you've done the character story quest, I've talked about this like way too much, but once you've done the character story quest, you've done the Archon quest, and you've done the world quest, you've gotten all the chests, and you've done Spar Abyss, then there's nothing left for you to do. All you're left to do is basically to look at the characters and to make polls. I think I watched MTash vid today in the morning, and he said that he did anger polls. And I'm not really surprised. In fact, I kind of expected it, because once you've done all the content, then all there is left to do is to play the gacha system. And the gacha system itself is not what made Genshin Impact popular, no. The gacha system is what keeps it going. It keeps it going by giving Mihoyo money so that they can patch the game and give more story content and to make new challenges for you to do. But they haven't done that very well in the recent patches, in my opinion. Aside from Spiral Abyss, which is the only endgame content for you to do, they have not added any sort of endgame content since the start of the game. Isn't that wild? I think that's really weird. Well, not really weird, because if you look at the kind of content they're making, then I don't think it is weird, because this is exactly what Mihoyo wants. And this goes back to the whole problem of Kokomi, where she's underpowered. And there are people asking, well, how did this make it through the beta? And I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think Mihoyo looked at the complaints and said, well, we don't really see the problem. We're just not going to fix it because we're too lazy or something. This is intentional. I think her kit, the way it's underpowered, is intentional. Just like how there is no endgame content is also intentional. I think this game is created for a casual audience. This game is not created for content creators for them to do. It's not created for you to make like big damage numbers and to give way like large damage all the time. It is not created for you to min-max, essentially, which is fine for a game that is not a gacha, because gachas survive off of ever increasingly bigger numbers for content creators to create guides on what builds you should do. But the problem is when you have characters like Yoimiya, like Kokomi, and like Raiden Shogun, which each of them have their own dramatic, drama problems that create drama. The problem is that people lose their hype for the game because there's nothing else to do. So the problem is all these factors. It's the story that's kind of declining, is not as good as it used to be, or at least as good as people want it to be, or as good as John Lee's story quest gave us hints of what it could be. And the characters are not as powerful anymore. We haven't seen another Ganyu. Ganyu really screwed up the meta, in my opinion, because after Ganyu, people really just expect more Ganyus. If it's not as powerful Ganyu, or as powerful as some of the older characters like Kazuha, even though he's fairly recent, he is very powerful. If they're not as powerful as Ganyu, John Lee, or Kazuha, then people get less excited. So they really screwed themselves in the ass. Like, let's be honest. And I think they realize that, which is why they're kind of dialing down on the power levels of the characters now. Because if they keep making characters more powerful, then they're going to run into the problem of making content that is challenging and relevant to the kind of power you have. And they don't want to nerf the characters either, because if they nerf the characters, then you've just lost a bunch of money. A bunch of whales have lost their money because their characters are no longer as they used to be. So they can't nerf the characters either. Imagine if they nerfed Ganyu. How many Ganyu mains would be so fucking angry at that? It's just not feasible. So what they're trying to do now is to make characters as normalized in terms of power level as they can be. There's not going to be another Ganyu. There's not going to be another John Lee who just makes entire segments of the content irrelevant, because you can just ignore damage and you can ignore their mechanics, because you do so much damage and you have so much defense that it's no longer relevant. This is why we have characters like Kokomi. This is not a mistake. Raiden not being able to proc Beto's ult is not a mistake. Yoimiya having only like non-AoE or dot damage is not a mistake. They really do not want another character to be Ganyu. They don't want another character to be John Lee. They don't want another Kazuha. This is entirely intentional. And once you take that and compound that with the lack of ending content, then you suddenly realize Genshin Impact, the template that Mihoyo has created for Genshin Impact, is for this to be a casual game, and that's what it is. But make no mistake, when you go through all of Genshin Impact up to the latest patch, you will realize this is a casual game. And that's why people get so angry when content creators suddenly say, oh, this character is not that great, that character is not that good, this character is OP, you should get this and not that. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Once you get through, the only metric to judge these characters is Spiral Abyss. There is no harder content. So you can get through Spiral Abyss with Kokomi, you can get through Spiral Abyss with even Amber, to be honest. If you really want a hardcore farm for Amber and do some really dumb bullshit and waste your time, then you can do that. Because really all of the characters in this game are viable. You can get through Spiral with Chi-Chi, Jean, any of these characters. It's all fine. There is no real endgame for you to test these characters out on. So even if these content creators tell you that this character sucks or that character is better, it doesn't matter. which is why people ultimately get so angry, I think, because not only are these characters large investments, there's no way to fundamentally see how good or bad these characters are, aside from the damage level. So, and the damage you don't need is not that much. So at the end of the day, this is a casual game, and I think this is the kind of identity crisis Genshin Impact is facing now, since, you know, we have all this content, like 90% of the content you see on YouTube is about characters, character guides, weapon guides, build guides, this kind of content. Yet, so little of Genshin Impact is actually focused around maximizing damage and maximizing efficiency. It's not that important. So I think the future of Genshin Impact is very much in the air. We're almost through Inazuma, which is the equivalent of Japan in the Genshin Impact world. And we're done with Liyue as well, which is the equivalent of China in the Genshin Impact world. And in the future regions, their real-life equivalents are not these huge Genshin Impact playing places, right? We have Fontaine, which is magical France, or Steampunk France, whichever you want it. We have Natlan, which is like Native America. We have Celestia, which is kind of like heaven. We have Conria, which is another like lost ancient civilization. We have Sumeru, which is the Middle East and India. None of these regions are exactly big Genshin Impact playing places. And I've talked about this in the past. So it remains to be seen how popular Genshin Impact will remain in the future. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Japanese players and Chinese players will still wail on the Hydro Archon or the Dendro Archon, whichever have you, what have you. But I really think it's just so hard to tell what the future of Genshin Impact will be, because even if you do get better anniversary rewards, even if Kokomi gets buffed, that still leaves the problem of no endgame content. And a declining worse storytelling in the main Archon quest. So these two are big problems, and I think they have to be fixed. They have to respect the player's time. They have to respect what players expect from the story. They have to respect what content creators want in an end game. They have to address these three major problems, I feel like, if they want Genshin Impact to remain a healthy and a high player based game. So yeah, that's how I feel about this whole drama around Kokomi, around the lack of powerful characters, Raiden's ult not being as buff as should be, and this whole drama around the anniversary wars, right? These are surface level problems. They don't fix the fundamental problems Genshin Impact has. So yeah, tell me what you feel about that in the comments. If you like my content, like, subscribe, you know, all the basic bullshit you do on YouTube.